HOAs. They're a big deal. When you are an investor and you're investing in Southern Nevada, let's say, there's 77% of all homes in Southern Nevada that are part of some kind of an HOA, which is a homeowners association. You need to know these rules before you completely close on that property. So during your due diligence, make sure that you understand what those rules are. They call them the CC&Rs, covenants, codes, and restrictions of that particular HOA. It's going to be a big, lengthy book, but it is important to read. You want to make sure that there are no restrictions that are going to affect that rental property. Let me give you an example. We had a property come to McKenna Property Management, and the owner said, rent this out. We said, great, the property was beautiful, great neighborhood. We put it on the market. We vetted an application. The resident moved in. We then registered the resident with the HOA, which is what you're supposed to do. And all of a sudden the HOA said, what? No, we have rental restrictions here in this community, and we don't allow rentals. What? I called the owner, had to tell the owner that what we just did was against the HOA's rules and regulations. And if we allowed the resident to stay in the property, he was going to be fined $100 a week until we got the resident out. That was a crappy phone call. The owner of that property did not take the time to read all of the details within that CC&Rs. So now we had to move out the resident, which the owner had to pay for moving costs. And you just don't want to be put into that situation. And then he turned around as an owner, had to sell that property and took a loss. So you really want to take the time to read those CC&Rs. We had another situation where there was a minimum lease requirement for that particular community. My owner only wanted to rent it out in 3-month increments, which I said, sure, no problem. Later to find out that you had to do a minimum of 6 months. So when they got a copy of the lease as at 3 months, they were in violation. They were subject to what would have been, again, a $150 week fine. So it's really important. Find out if what you're about to purchase falls within the rules of that HOA. Now we'll talk about some of kind of the silly rules, I like to say. So trash cans. Trash cans might only be able to stay out for 1 day. If a trash can stays out longer than 1 day, that could be something where the HOA will cite you for a violation. And if you continue to do it, or the resident continues to do it, then there will be a fine attached to that violation. Now, here at McKenna Property Management, those fines get passed on to the resident, and the resident has to pay it with their next month's rent. But that is not a fun situation. That is not a good conversation that you want to have with the resident. So you want to know these things up front so that when the resident signs the lease, they know what to expect. So give them a copy of those rules that talk about when a trash can needs to be put up, how long a garage door can stay open. That's a rule. If a garage door stays open too long, they can cite you. Many associations here in Las Vegas have that. The other one we see a lot of is what you can and cannot store on a balcony or a patio. This is a big one. If a resident has let's say a sofa that they want to put out on the balcony, if the HOA does not allow that type of furniture on a balcony, you are going to get a resident that is pretty pissed off. Where are they going to store this sofa that they had every intention of putting on that patio or balcony? Know what you need to tell the resident before they move in. That way you can set the resident up for success. And if something does occur that the resident has not, obeyed some particular rule, you've already talked to them about it, and it's a better conversation. So the other thing is these violations that we're talking about. So let's go over what happens in an HOA. If you are doing something that is against the rules of the HOA, they are going to give you a violation. This violation letter will be sent to the owner's address that is on the tax record documents, and it usually gets sent to the resident or the property address. Well, we know what a resident's going to do with that. If it's not addressed to their name, they throw it away. So it's important that you make sure that the address that is on your tax records is the address that you want everything to go to. You should also follow up with your HOA to make sure that they have your proper mailing address, contact information, i.e. your email and your telephone. I'm going to tell you a story that happened just recently to one of our owners. So one of our owners, he's an accountant actually, did not know that the HOA had increased their HOA assessment their monthly fee by $5. So he had it set on an auto pay, and in January of this year, that increase occurred. So in January, when his auto pay sent the HOA the money, it was $5 short. In February, it was another $5 short on top of a late fee. And this happened for months, about 8 months into it. Now, this HOA, since they have not been paid, they sent it to a collection agency. And the collection agency tacked on all of their fees. So for a $5 mistake, that owner ended up paying $3,700 in collection fee, in late fees, and the differences in that assessment cost. So it's nothing to shy away from. You need to make sure you stay on top of your HOA fees. Make sure your HOA knows how to get a hold of you. Now, this particular owner swore up and down that the HOA had his email, his proper mailing address, and his contact information. Why he wasn't informed, don't know, but state of Nevada doesn't really care. They say that the owner is responsible to know what their obligation is for that HOA. Crazy, but that's the truth. So what I recommend is every January and every July, take a couple, I'd say half hour, 45 minutes, sit down, call your HOA, and make sure you know what assessment is and you know that they have all of your contact information correctly. The other thing is specifically, how long do you have with these violations? So you have a garage door that stays open too long. They send you this letter that says you are out of compliance. You need to get into compliance. Do not throw the letter away. Respond to the letter. Let them know that you have identified this and that you are addressing it and it will not happen again. Because if you just throw that letter away and then next month something happens within those 30 days, then that violation has stayed open. So open for the first 30 days. Now it stays open for another 30 days, 60 days. Now you're in a position where they can take you to a hearing. When you go to a hearing, that is when they start assessing the fines. And it's no joke. It's about $100 per week if you are out of compliance. And remember how I just talked about making sure your HOA has all of your information so that they can get a hold of you? Well, if you don't get a violation because it didn't get sent to you and you were unaware of it, then you go to a hearing and the hearing finds that you're at fault. They're going to start charging you $100 a week. And then you don't realize that until you check your assessment page, I don't know, a couple months in. You could end up paying thousands of dollars in fines. It happens all the time. So this is not just something that happens once in a blue moon. We see it all the time. And it is so frustrating for our owners. They call me up. They are so mad. I didn't know. Why didn't I know? It should be their obligation. I pay them every month. They work for me. I'm not going to disagree with any of that. However, the law is on the HOA side. So just don't play their game. Get ahead of it. That will allow you to have less headaches, enjoy being a landlord, and then reap the benefits of your property appreciation. I hope this has been a little insightful for your HOA knowledge, at least here in Southern Nevada. You can always reach out to McKenna Property Management if you have any questions about an HOA or if something's going on and you would like to have our advice. We're always here to help.